on my breast, which I didn't actually know could happen. Everyone that I've heard of who's had cellulitis has had it on their legs. But you learn something new all the time, and I learnt the hard way. It would have been close on 2 weeks ago. I was having just a normal day. I'd been to, oh, and the reason that I'm putting this video here is because I have had, I know a lot of people who have had breast surgery, whether it be a breast reduction or breast lift, or even people who've had reconstructions after having breast cancer watch these videos to see, what the surgery is like. And cellulitis can happen after breast surgery. I've found out you can get cellulitis on your breast after breast surgery, and it can also happen as a result of having chemotherapy when you've had breast cancer. So that's why it's here. Plus also it flows on from, they don't think it happened because of my nipple piercing, but that is a risk factor I have found out. So for anyone who watches my nipple piercing videos, this is relevant, could be relevant. Hopefully not relevant to anyone, because it's the sickest I've been in my life. I've never, ever, ever been sicker. So anyway, I was having a normal day. I'd been to pick up my son, who lives about 35, 40 minutes away from me, to bring him back here for an appointment. And then I took him back home, and I was in his driveway, and I messaged my daughter to say I'll be home in half an hour or so and we'll go to the gym. I felt that good. I had just a real spring in my step, felt fantastic. So then I was driving home, and I was probably about 10 minutes away from home. So only about 20, 25 minutes later, and I got this like pain in, another thing that I have to explain before I sound like an absolute idiot. Since my surgery, I have some sensation in my nipple, but very, very little sensation in my areola. Now that doesn't bother me because I never did have that before anyway, so it's not like the surgery I had took anything away from me. So I was driving down the freeway, and I had what felt like a pain in the side of my nipple, right? And like, see, even now, I'm pretty sure that's around about where my nipple is, but without looking, I don't know, because I can't feel it. So I'm driving down the freeway, and I thought, oh shit, that really hurts. And because I had the piercing in, sometimes, you can get a hair caught around it or a bit of cotton off your clothing, like off your bra, and it pulls, and that hurts a little bit, right? So I thought, I must have got a hair or a bit of cotton or something in there. And it was hurting like really, really badly. So I put my hand in my bra as I'm driving down the freeway and felt around. I thought, oh no, it doesn't feel like there's any hair or cotton or anything in there. I thought, oh, that's really weird that that's hurting so much. And then I got a pain. My fingers were hurting, my elbow was hurting, and then I just felt shit from head to toe, like really, really unwell. I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on here? And initially I thought it was a panic attack. So I got home, and I went inside, and I said to my daughter straight away, I said, we're not going to the gym. I'm really not feeling well. I'm going to actually, I've got to get my bra off and call the doctors and make an appointment, because that's how sick I felt. So I called my doctors, and I couldn't get in for 2 hours, and I couldn't see my regular GP. So I said to her, I'm just going to have a lay down on the bed until I can go down to the doctors. So I lay down on the bed, and initially I took my bra off, and it was quite red, but the redness was only like a fairly small area. And I thought, oh, maybe something bit me. Or I thought, well, this is really weird, because I haven't breastfed for 23 years or 24 years, but it actually looked and felt like mastitis. It was very red, it was hot, it was starting to get a bit swollen, and I felt like I was coming down with the flu. So I thought, I'll just have a lay down, and I'll go into the doctor's, and she'll give me a script for some antibiotics in case it's mastitis, which is, a bit weird, but, I guess it's possible. So I laid down, and by the time it was time to go to my appointment, like less than 2 hours later, I went out to my daughter and I said, you've got to drive me, because I don't feel well enough to actually drive. I'm really, really sick. So she drove me to the doctors, and I sat outside the doctors, and because with COVID, and it was before they relaxed restrictions even further, they could only have 8 people in the waiting room, and there was already plenty of people in there. So I went and sat outside. So I'm not real good sitting in the sun for a start. But I got like tummy cramps, which is not unusual for me when I need to poo because I've got IBS. So I alternate between being constipated and having diarrhea. And so I was sitting there and I'm thinking, oh, well, this is a bit of an insult. You know, like suddenly I've got my IBS diarrhea, and I thought I'll wait until after I've seen the doctor because I don't want to go in now because it could take a while. And if she comes and calls me, and then I'm going to have to wait longer and everything. So I thought I'll just wait it out. But I was like doubled over, and I'm thinking, I think I might actually pass out here. So I got into the doctor's, and she had a look, and she prescribed me some antibiotics, just some cephalexin or something like that, because she thought it might have been an abscess. So she gave me a form to go and get an ultrasound to make sure there was no abscess in my breast. So I left. I went to the toilet on the way out, and it was just, and because I do have the IBS, and it's not unusual for me to get diarrhea. I didn't really think much of it, but that can be part of the cellulitis as well. So I'll never know if that was just coincidental IBS then, or if it was like the cellulitis really kicking in. So we went and got the antibiotics, and my daughter took me home, and I was so sick. And you know, by this time it was probably about 3 o'clock, 3:30, and I just went to bed. And I was trying to like call around to get an appointment for an ultrasound, and no one could fit me in for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks or something. And I'm thinking, oh, but I was so sick that I couldn't even concentrate to think, you know, just call someone else. I'd already called, you know, like 4 or 5 places. So I just went to sleep. And when I went into the doctor's, she'd drawn around the redness on my breast. And then when I got home, after a couple of hours, my daughter came in and she goes, Mum, that is spread. I think you should go to the hospital. And I'm like, no, I've got a lot to do tomorrow. Because the following day, I was meant to go and do some more hair modelling, which I was really excited about. So, you know, like in the meantime, like because I'd fully thought I'd be going to do this hair modelling. So I'd got my daughter to, when she last dyed my hair, she missed a couple of bits here. So I said, just touch those up, and you know, I'll have a lay down, I'll have a sleep, and I'll have a shower and everything, and I'll go and do my modelling tomorrow. And I was meant to be going out to dinner as well the following night, and just something in me just said, oh, just you get a couple of doses of the antibiotics, you'll be fine, you can do it all. And so she said, no, Mum, I really think you should go up to the hospital. And I was going, no, it's okay. I'm just going to sleep. I'll be fine. So I went back to sleep, and I sort of felt a little bit better because I'd had some Panadol and some ibuprofen, and slept a bit. And then I woke up. It was about 10 o'clock, I think. And she came in and she had a look, and it had spread even further. And she's like, Mum, you've really got to go to the hospital. Really, really got to go to the hospital. And I said to her, no, I'm feeling a little bit better. I'm going to be okay. I'll just, you know, I'll be fine. And then it got to midnight, and I just suddenly felt a lot worse. And I said to her, oh, actually, we'll go to the hospital. So we came out, and she was going to drive me because I didn't feel well enough to drive. And she's only on her L plate, so I need to supervise and everything. So we came out, and I got as far as the front door, and I said to her, oh, I can't remember what I'd forgotten, but I'd forgotten something. I think the antibiotics or something. So I said, oh, I've got to go back and get those. So then I came back inside, and I only walked, like from the front door's just here, and my table is here. I got to the table, and she goes, oh, it's all right, I'll go down and get it. And I sat down, and I couldn't get up again. And I thought, Jesus, I'm going to actually fall on the floor. I'm going to actually pass out from being so sick. So she called an ambulance, because I couldn't even walk anymore at that stage. So she called an ambulance, and they said, you know, they'll send an ambulance. And then they called a little bit later. By this time I felt well enough to, because I said to her, I said, I can't sit here anymore, I've got to get to the couch. So I made it over to the couch, which is just over here, flaked out on the couch, and then the Triple O people called back, and they said, look, it's going to be over an hour for the ambulance, because we're really, really busy at the moment. We'll send you a taxi. So because we said, you know, because I couldn't supervise my daughter being on L plates with being so sick. So we had no way of getting there. So they said, we'll send you a taxi, and, like, the ambulance service pays for it and everything, which I didn't know was a thing. So that was really good. So I said, we've got quite a long driveway, and it's very dark, and it's quite sort of narrow, and it's a bit wiggly. So I said to Zoe, I don't want a taxi coming up there because it's going to be too hard for him to back out. I said, I've had a bit of a rest on the couch now. We'll see if I can make it down to the end of the driveway, and we'll wait for the taxi down there. So I walked down, and, like, the driveway, I'm only the third unit back, so I only had to walk like the length of 3 units. And so I got down to the bottom of the driveway, and then I just couldn't stand up anymore. So I, collapsed on the footpath. And then, a little bit later, the taxi came, took us to the hospital. So from the time when I went, oh, that's a little bit sore on my nipple, to being in the hospital was like 12 and a half hours, which was, that I could get that sick that fast, was terrifying. So we waited in emergency for a couple of hours, and I couldn't even sit up on the chair. I ended up, Zoe was sitting on the floor with me laying on the floor and my head in her lap. And so, like, a nurse came over and she said, oh, you can't lay on the floor. And I said, well, I can't sit up. If I sit in the chair, I'm scared I'm going to fall off the chair. I'm really too unwell to be sitting. So she went off and she got me some endone, and I felt very sick as well. So she also got me some antiemetics, the little tablets that you put under your tongue. I can't remember what they're called, but she got me some of those, and that really perked me up. I felt a lot better then, so I was able to, like, actually get up and sit up on the chair without feeling like I was going to, like, fall off. And so I waited about 2 hours, which isn't too bad in emergency. And then they took me in, and they did blood tests and everything, and put in an IV, and they got the results of the blood tests back, which were, it was quite scary, actually. As my GP said to me, when I was asking her about the CRP level that mine was. I've just seen how red my face is. I've just been to the gym. My CRP, normal CRP, it doesn't say what normal is. I think, and I don't want to say what it is, but it's like 10 or 20 or 30 or something. That's like the highest that CRP should be, which is like an indicator of bacterial infection and inflammation and stuff. Mine, when they first tested it, was 211, and my white cells were 21. I'm not sure what they're supposed to be, maybe like 5 or 10 or something, but so they were very high. And there was something else, and I think my neutrophils were 19.8, and I think they're meant to be like a lot lower, like 3 or 5 or something. I should have looked up what all the numbers are, and if I remember, I'll put it down in the box underneath. But yeah, when I got my discharge summary, and I don't think I've ever seen this on a blood test result before, because like if it's high, it says high, or urgent or whatever. My white cells just said critical, and my CRP said critical as well. So, and what was the other one I said was high? My neutrophils were also high. They were also critical. So I was genuinely very, very sick. I looked up CRP online, and I think it was anything over 30, I think, was high. And then anything over 100 is really quite bad. That means like you've got some bacterial infection going on and you're really quite sick. Over 200 is when you're starting to get into sepsis territory, like blood poisoning, septicemia, and mine was 211. My CRP was 211. So I was, as my GP said, she said, that's very bad. Very bad. So she said I might not have been, obviously wasn't in full-blown sepsis, because I probably, very possibly wouldn't actually be here now. But she said I would have had the beginnings of bacteria throughout my bloodstream, so the beginnings of septicemia or sepsis. So it's just as well, and the emergency doctor did actually say to my daughter, it's a good thing you brought her in. So they admitted me and put me on IV antibiotics. the dosage was just so phenomenally high, and it still took about 2 days, 2 or 3 days for me to start coming good. I actually got worse in the hospital before I got better. Um, the normal dosage of penicillin, like for oral dosage, is one 500 milligram tablet 4 times a day. In the hospital on the IV penicillin, I was having 2 grams, so that's the equivalent of a whole day's medication, 2 grams 4 times a day. So I was having like the equivalent of a 4-day course of antibiotics every single day. And that part of it got a little bit traumatic because I've only got 2 good veins. I've got one here and one here. They're not good veins to be putting IVs into because you bend your elbows all the time, and my veins aren't good. So between the IVs and the Clexane injections that I had to have every day because I was just laying around in bed, I had 15 injections in hospital over a 5-day period, and I am not good with needles. They had to get special doctors in for me, and yeah. So I was in hospital 4 nights. So 5 days, 4 nights. I was pretty sick the first. I'm going to say the first 2 days I was pretty sick, but then I started to feel better. Like by the time I actually left to go home, they wanted to trial me on. I think I had the IV antibiotics for 3 days or 3.5 days or something, and then they wanted to put me onto the oral antibiotics or the oral penicillin for 24 hours to make sure that I wasn't going to go backwards, and they wanted to check, my blood levels and everything as well. So, by the time I left, they did a blood test every day to check all of that. By the time I left, my white cell count had gone from 21.3 down to 5.4, which was still high, but it's okay. And my neutrophils had gone down from 19.8 down to 2.9, which is fine. My CRP, as I said, initially was 211, came down to 110, and when I left it was 77, which is still high, but they look at the trend of it going down. And in a couple of weeks I've got to go and have another blood test to check all my levels again to make sure that I really am well. I came home with 4 days worth of oral penicillin, which I took, and I'm feeling pretty good now. My breast is still a little bit pink, tiny little bit pink, and you can really only notice it when you compare it to the other one, but it's fine. And I feel well in myself, but I'm getting really tired, really tired, really easily. I went back to the gym for the first time about 3 or 4 days ago, and I came home, and I did like not even half what I would normally do, and I came home and I was just absolutely exhausted. So I had a few days break, and I went back today. Did the same workout that I did last time, so a very, very small workout. Like when I say small, I was maybe there for probably no more than 45 minutes. And I'm absolutely exhausted. I'm meant to be going out to dinner, well, not to dinner tonight, but I'm meant to be going out to have drinks with friends. And I really don't think I'm going to go because just the thought of having to have a shower and wash my hair and put makeup on and get dressed and actually drive there it's just, the thought of it is just absolutely exhausting to me, so I'm probably just going to stay home. So, but I think that's probably just the residual from being as sick as I was. I think I'm just still recovering from that, even though like when I get enough rest I feel fine. And also because I've had that cellulitis on my breast, there is a 30% chance of it reoccurring within 8 weeks. So if I can get through the next 6 weeks, I'm okay. But because of that, and because I was so sick, I never, ever want to be that sick again in my life, I asked my GP for a script for penicillin, and I said to her, I'm going to fill this, and if I'm away from home for more than, if I'm going to be away from home for more than about an hour, I'm going to take them with me in case this happens again, so I can get straight onto those antibiotics and then make an appointment to go back and see the GP, because I got so sick so fast last time. So she's okay with that. So I've got my penicillin in the cupboard that I'll carry around with me, anytime I go anywhere. I'm going to Ballarat next weekend, so you better believe I'm going to be taking them with me then. What else? Oh, I'll put a picture in at the end of the video. So when I say, like, see ya, I'm going. Now, it is a completely naked photo of my breast that I took the first day in the hospital. So I was still quite sick. Now, you'll see how bad it is. And you've anyone who watches my channel, you know my boobs, right? So you know that you can barely see my scars. It was so, and it actually got worse, a lot worse than what this photo shows. It got a lot more red. It got so red that you couldn't actually see the where my nipple or my areola ended and my breast started. That you couldn't see that. My GP said that she's never seen it this bad. She said people normally get like a little patch and that's it. She said she's never ever seen anyone with cellulitis on their breast this bad. The doctors in the hospital were taking photos of it, bringing all their students to come and check it out and everything. Yeah, so I'll pop in a photo at the end, and you'll see that it's so red and swollen, and you can see the pen marks that have been drawn and how it's gone outside of that line. It actually went outside of the lines that you'll see in the picture. All of my scars are like indented in, and they're not normally like that. It's just because of this. And you'll see that I've taken my nipple ring out. They don't think it was caused by the nipple ring because the nipple ring has been in for over a year. They don't think it was caused from changing the nipple ring because it had been changed like about a month beforehand. So if it was going to cause a problem, it would have caused it much sooner. We're leaning towards a bite, like a bug bite or a spider bite or something. And it's not the poison from whatever bit me that would have caused this, but sometimes, like if you get a spider bite or something, and I've been bitten by spiders and bugs before and never had a problem. I've been bitten by a whitetail and not had a problem, and a redback actually. But sometimes if a bug or a spider bites you, they can have bacteria on their fangs. And that bacteria, if it's a staph or a strep bacteria, can cause the cellulitis. And initially, because I was looking at the top of my nipple and the side of my nipple, or the side of my areola, because I thought that's where I'd been bitten. And if I had been bitten, I wouldn't have necessarily felt it on my skin because there's very little sensation there, but I would have felt the pain deeper inside. But if you have a look on the photo at the end of the video, you can see there's two sort of like raw red marks there that I'm guessing could have been a bite. And it would have been easy for something to just like fall into my bra or crawl on me and crawl inside my bra and bite me, and I wouldn't have known. Because like when I put my hand in there, it's probably already fallen to the bottom of my bra. When I came home, I took my bra off. It probably fell out of my bra without me even noticing. I don't know, but we'll never know what really caused it. So yeah, you'll see those really red marks on the video. Since I've taken my nipple ring out, and I'll never ever put it back in again. That nipple, even though I'm sure it wasn't the nipple ring that caused it. If I get any sort of trauma to my breast now, that puts me at more like a higher risk of the cellulitis coming back. So putting the nipple ring in could cause trauma. Scratching it could cause trauma. I'm actually peeling now. All the skin around my breast is peeling, so I'm being very careful with that. I got myself a soap-free wash because if I get a fungal infection underneath my boob, which I normally don't, but if I do, because they're big and they're a little bit saggy, that could set it off. So I've got soap-free wash. I was just using regular soap, but also I got very itchy. So to prevent scratching and keep the skin nice, I've got a soap-free wash so that it doesn't dry the skin out. I've got some sorbeline to moisturise my boobs because that will help with preventing itching so that I'm not scratching and then causing more problems. And when I have sex from now on, I've got the one boob. That's it. That's all they can have. I'm never going to let anyone touch this one or put their mouth on it. Nothing. That's never happening. This one is off bounds. The only thing is that I'm happy about, I've still got my good boob. The good boob for the boys. It was my sad boob that copped it. Since I've taken the nipple ring out, because that was my inverted nipple, it hasn't completely gone inverted again, but which you'll see in the photo. but it's still flat, and you can see the tiny little holes where the nipple ring was. But I mean, I imagine over time won't see that at all. I've left the nipple ring in the other side because that boob's behaving itself. There's no problems with that, and I'll leave it in for the foreseeable future. I don't know if I want to have just one nipple ring. I don't know. That's what I need to decide, but that's something for me to worry about another time. But I'm leaving it in there because it's easier to leave it in there rather than take it out now and then change my mind. And I will not be getting this one re-pierced ever again. So that's it. That was my adventure like a couple of weeks ago. And for those who are a little bit squeamish, there's no ulcers or anything. There's the two red marks, which made me think, because they're quite big marks. Unless something's bit me twice, it must have been something really big in there, but I would have felt it. I would have felt it, like on the rest of my breast if it was something really big. Yeah, so if you're a bit squeamish or you don't want to see my naked boobies with my nipple looking all very, very red and very, very, very sore, look away now, because it's coming.